Hi folks, and welcome to the daily analysis for August 6th. It's about 4 p.m. New York time, so we're going to jump into the charts here and examine how the week started, as it is Monday. See if we can kind of detect anything that happened that could set us up for the rest of the week. Obviously, it'd be a very optimal situation to get into a good trade Monday and then just hold it as it makes you profit throughout the rest of the week. That's always a great position to be in. So hopefully, with what we go through today, I'll provide you with some good educational options to look for and maybe help you succeed in making some profit throughout the week. Before we do jump into these charts, first we need to take a quick look at our terms, just so you are very understanding of what we can and cannot do, and kind of what the legal obligations of doing a daily analysis is. And here they are. And again, it's just important because the government is very strict about people using the charts and things like that to give advice, because they want people to be registered or licensed to do it. So for this, it's just about education. It's not giving you investment advice. We're not licensed or qualified to do that. So make sure you have a clear understanding of that. And then if you need to, you can pause this video and watch or read the rest of that. And we're going to jump into the charts now. Now, the first thing I have up here is the euro dollar. Obviously, we always like to start with the euro dollar because it's the #1 trade currency in the world, and it's kind of the staple of the currency markets that everyone likes to look at. And so, one thing to note with the euro dollar is that it is trying to make a rally, even though it's been so bearish over the past few months, obviously, and even more so since the break of this level has been very bearish. But you can see that we do have somewhat of a bullish rally. It started with a few bar rally up, and then a retracement, and then a slight continuation of that with a strong bar from Friday. And so you can see that this just little upward leg is nothing important yet, because it hasn't broke through any major levels, but it is showing some momentum to the upside, and it's something to keep your eye on. I'm not going to short it right here just because it's bouncing, because for me, I know that sometimes I want to short something as long as it's bearish. If there's any bounce, I want to short it, but it's oftentimes more wise to wait for an actual signal, not just shorting because it bounces in a downtrend. Okay, so you don't want to short it while it's bouncing and it's actually going to rally all the way up to much higher highs, because then you find yourself in a pretty ugly losing trade. So I still think that the euro dollar is overall a very bearish currency pair, but there's been a lot of reports of some euro recovery. So got to keep your eye on that and just be patient with it, and don't take an entry just because there's a bounce, because that's going to get you into trouble. Even if it is heading back down, you don't know when the bounce is over, or how big the bounce is going to be. So I would wait if I were trading the euro dollar for a continuation signal back into the downtrend. And that's, of course, what I'm looking for here. This little level here has been broken to some extent by this bar, but I wouldn't really call that a critical level, as it's just one lower low in this downward trend. But nonetheless, it was broken. This is a very powerful bar that we saw here from Friday, so something to be said for that. And we will have to just continue to watch the euro dollar and look. And if it does rally up, to higher highs, if it comes all the way up and say breaks this level, then all of a sudden we're going to be looking for great long-term long setups, which will obviously be a very large change of pace, but you never know. It's definitely a possibility. So just be patient with that, and make sure that you're looking for good, clear technical signals, and should be okay. Speaking of news and stuff, I didn't really cover the news today because Tony released his fundamental outlook, where he covers everything in a lot more detail than I do anyway. So there's a link to that below this video, and if you're interested in the fundamental stuff, make sure you click that and check out his video, because he covers that in a lot more detail. Alright, let's take a look at the pound dollar. Now, similarly to the euro dollar, Friday was a major bounce for the pound. But of course, the pound has been a lot stronger, so it's not in this wicked downtrend like the euro. And there was a support line here that it was bouncing off, so the bounce to the upside made a lot more sense with the pound than it did with the euro. However, notice that today the euro is actually a lot more bullish overall than the pound, as the pound finished in a somewhat filled bearish bar, while the euro is slightly bullish on the day. So that shows you that the euro pound pair is probably going to be bearish overall today because the euro, or excuse me, it's probably going to be overall bullish today because the euro was actually slightly stronger than the pound based on the correlation we see from the euro dollar to the pound dollar. Okay, so this is pound dollar. I don't know why my thing's not up there, but this is pound dollar. And we do see that it's still following this channel. And so this channel is something that if you don't have drawn on your chart, I would highly advise you to draw that on your chart and keep your eye on it. One thing that I'm looking, although I have been trading through this channel, one thing I'm looking for is if it continues to tighten all the way up into this very slow area, the breakout, whether it's to the downside or the upside, is going to be a really good breakout and something that I can't wait to look for a trade for because pound dollar already moves a lot. It's already a heavily moving currency. But if it's breaking out of a really tight consolidation like it could get into here, the breakout is going to be a lot more intense and definitely something that I'm going to be looking forward to trading. So make sure that you have these levels on your charts and you're looking for that because eventually it could provide a really good trade opportunity. Let's take a look at the US yen quickly. Now the US yen is somewhat annoying me because it had this awesome bullish rally here that was just filled with pips and tons of market movement and reaction. There's just a lot of stuff going on. Then it reversed at the top, did the same thing on the way back down for quite a bit of time with a more just awesome momentum and lots of good trade opportunities. And then it kind of just slowed down all of a sudden. And we had this area of choppiness that lasted for a few weeks. And now we're kind of in another little zone. And it's somewhat frustrating because the US yen was kind of choppy and boring to trade before this. And finally we got these rallies and we thought, wow, the US yen is all of a sudden moving and great to trade again. And then no later than, now we're back in much more boring market conditions, especially when it's a channel this tight that really doesn't provide any type of movement. So as for me, again, and I feel like I've said this so many times over the past few months, the US yen is just not something that I'm looking to trade right now because there's a lot of pairs that are trending and are moving well, and for me those are just much more enticing to look for setups on. If the US yen does break out, then sure, I'll look for the setup. But there's a good probability that it might break out and then all of a sudden just start channeling at the next level, or break up and start channeling at the next level, and provide you with no more good trade opportunities. So it's something that I'm not really looking for trades at, and I just wanted to point out that it is in this channel again. And unless you're trading much smaller time frames, there's probably not a lot of decisive direction to be found currently in the US yen. So wanted to point that out to you guys. Okay, let's go and look at the USDCAD. And the USDCAD is right on the bottom of this downward channel, as you can see here. This channel has held intact pretty well over the past few weeks, and you can see that it's continuing to do so. It's actually been a few months now, I guess, that this channel has been in place. And right now we're just at the bottom of this level. So whether price bounces up to get to the top of this channel, I don't know. I think that's a possibility. Other times that have been tested, it has rallied to some extent. Not always all the way to the top of the channel, but still definitely some bullish movement. You can see that from bottom to top, the channel is about 165 pips. Obviously it's going to be slightly different in different areas, 145 pips there. But definitely pips to be made in both directions. Now with that said, the bearish direction is obviously a lot more enticing because the overall movement is bearish. But if you just trade that side, you could miss out on a lot of pips. So that kind of comes down to how confident you are in taking your counter trend setups and how sure you are that the continuation from a bounce is going to follow through towards the top of the channel and not just reverse back down. So that really depends on the trader, but I do think that there's opportunities to be made both long and short on this pair at this time. And you can see that it's obviously very similar to the AUD dollar because of the US dollar correlation here, just kind of in reverse, as the AUD dollar is in an upward channel like this, while this is obviously this downward channel. So we'll look at the AUD dollar real quick next, and then I'll kind of continue what I'm talking about here, only examining that pair instead. And of course you can see what I mean by the channel being the same except for in reverse, as it's testing the top of the channel here. And this channel also has been intact for a few months, so Both very consistent, moving with good pullbacks and consistent higher highs. And what's interesting about the AUD is, as strong as it's been, there's still been very nice pullbacks throughout this uptrend. So whether that's showing US dollar strength or just that it's a very sustainable trend, I don't know, because a trend that rallies straight up like this is not as maintainable. But if the trend's moving like this, up and down and catching its breath and just making higher highs, that's a lot more sustainable trend, and perhaps means that a trend like this is actually a better long-term setup than a rally like this, even though the former one, this one, is showing a lot more momentum and strength than this one. So that's one way to look at it. It depends on your take on that. I'd love to actually get your feedback on that idea, because I'm not really sure where I come down on that. But it looks like the AUD dollar is definitely bullish long term, and it certainly seems like the AUD strength is for real as far as what we're seeing. And I think Tony makes reference to that in his fundamental stuff as well, with the Australian relationship to China and things like that. So if you're not familiar with that, again, make sure you click that link and check out his information, because I think it'll give you a more holistic idea of the markets for sure. But yeah, let's take a look at the AUD dollar in a little closer time frame here. If we look down at the 4-hour here, and you can see that it's actually been at the top of this area for a decent amount of time, and the pullbacks have not obviously got close to the bottom of the bar before it retreated back. But you'd expect that eventually it is going to make a full pullback so that it can make a higher high. I don't know when that'll be or if that will be, but judging by the consistency of the trend so far, that would be expected. And so that's something that I'm waiting on and looking eagerly to maybe take advantage of if it does begin heading back down with more momentum than just a smaller pullback like this. Like this, for instance, was a great tail and something that I'd definitely be interested in shorting. However, it was rejected pretty immediately, so I guess I'm thankful that I didn't see that and get in on it. But then again, I would have waited probably for a daily confirmation anyway, which might not have been there and been a good filter to keep out of it. Although actually, when you look at this tail, this is actually a really nice signal on the daily chart too, and something that I would have probably found very interesting. One thing is that obviously we're still in the uptrend, even though this is a strong bearish tail. But it's off of a top trend line support, and history does show that the retraces have come down pretty far. So that's a signal that I'm kind of glad I didn't look too much into, because I might have fallen for it and got hurt on it. But I do think that the AUD might finish a retracement here soon. It's kind of tough to tell when the AUD is so strong. But it's something to keep your eye out again. I mean, that's really all I can say. These are good signals and good levels and good patterns, but you have to see something that works for your personal strategy, something that follows your personal trading plan, and something that lines up with the way that you see the markets in order for you to put your money on the line, obviously. And so nothing less would be expected from you than to make sure that it appropriates with what you're looking for. So that's the AUD dollar. And we're going to go ahead and look at a couple other pairs here. Give me 1 second. Okay, here we are. I have the euro pound up, as you see here, and I'm actually short on the euro pound right now, and you can see my arrow there. Just took it pretty recently, and I'm up about 2 pips, so I haven't been in the trade very long. But the reason I took this trade was, number one, because the downward momentum is very intense, and I think that the euro pound is a great long-term short, and has been for a while, because it's a good situation where the euro and the pound neither should be in great economical situations, but if you have to bet on one, the pound seems like the much safer bet. It seems like the pound should be the stronger currency over the long haul, and so fundamentally that makes a lot of sense to me. And then of course technically the downtrend has been intact for quite some time and has shown a lot of consistency over a lot of months, so that again is a great indicator that this could be a long-term short. Then we have the fact that this is a trend line bounce and showing continuation. So this is a good bounce off of this line and looks to be ready to head back down and make a lower low. And then when we have the fact that the previous step here is at the same exact level as this trend line, so it's bouncing off of double resistance, trend line and horizontal resistance line. So we have that going for us. And then even though all of that is great, I still want to take the trade without an actual candle signal. So I zoom into the 8-hour to show you that we do have a good 8-hour signal here, which is bouncing off the trend line. So even though it's not a daily signal, and I do prefer daily signals over anything, because I'm so confident in this downtrend, I was able to take an 8-hour candle with some confidence that it is going to continue downward. And I wanted to do that because I didn't want to wait for tomorrow in case tomorrow were to take off and have a massive bar, and then I'd miss out on tons of pips. So for me, it was worth the risk of taking the the 8-hour bar and taking short. And I'm only risking 1% on the trade, so if I lose it, I'm not going to be happy. But it's a 1% loss, and I think it's a a fair enough risk in order for what I'm targeting, because I'm targeting a very large gain on this, over 10% of my account. So that's why I think that this is valid entry, and why it's worth it to me. Now, of course, in your own trading, I would certainly advise you not to change your trading plan or anything like that to adapt to the way I do it. But I'm just trying to give you an example of kind of the things that I take into account when I'm making trades and what I like to see. So that's the euro pound trade that I'm looking at, and I'll update you tomorrow on how that goes. You see how tight my stop loss is. Right here's my stop loss, so very tight to keep my risk really small, because just from my personal thinking, I'm thinking that it is going to take off with a lot of strong continuation, or it's going to break right through. So it makes no sense to keep my stop loss up here rather than here, because I think if it goes here, it is going to go there. And so that's my thinking on it, and I'm confident that it is overall bearish, and if it's not, then I'm going to take my 1% hit and look for the next trade. So that's the position I'm in, and I'm pretty okay with it. And again, I'll update you and let you know how that goes tomorrow, and maybe I'll be stopped out already. Maybe I'll be in the trade with a nice gain. I'll let you know. Alright, I think that's the last pair I wanted to cover today, so hopefully that was some helpful analysis for you to get your week going. And if you have any comments or questions, as always, please leave those below the video, and I'll get back to you right away. And let me know if there's anything that you're looking at this Monday, because as I said, it's always good to get the week started off strong with some great opportunities and things to take advantage of, so that you can make some money throughout the week by holding those positions that you took early on. Alright guys, well, I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day and have a great trading week.